Hi, everybody. Welcome to Spectrum Straight Talk. I'm Jodi Carlton. I'm an autism and Asperger's specialist and relationship coach. And today I have with me Dr. Temple Grandin and Dr. Debra Moore. And we'd like to talk to all of you about this coronavirus pandemic and how it's affecting our autism families and couples, and just see what we can do to support all of you to get through this crisis. So Dr. Grandin, you are a world-renowned animal scientist who I know revolutionized the cattle industry, and you have been featured on NPR and BBC and 2020, and so I'm honored to have you here again. So thank you so much for being here with me again.
Well, one of the things that, Debra and I are working on a new book right now on how people with autism think. I'm really concerned about that a lot of individuals that are visual thinkers are getting screened out because they can't do algebra. And I've worked with a lot of brilliant, skilled tradespeople, art people, people that fix cars, and we need all the different kinds of minds. And visual thinking is a different approach to problem solving. Okay, we've been going on with the coronavirus right now. Mm-hmm. I've had health problems in the past. 15 years ago, I was losing my hearing. And that's when I really learned how to surf the internet and get deep into the scientific literature. And I have found papers on medications that are being used right now, off-label, but they're using them in other countries to treat coronavirus. And it's just coming out. One of the drugs is called chloroquine. It's an old malaria drug. And the other one is called Caltra, and it's a HIV drug. And you might be interested in this paper. It's titled Discovering Drugs to Treat Coronavirus Disease 2019 by Leon Dong and Hugh and Gaya from China. And it's in the Drug Discovery and Therapeutics Journal. And they actually has a table in here of how to actually use the drugs. And I tend to be very logical. And I'm an older person. I'm at the at-risk group. And I can tell you that malaria drug, if I get sick with it, I'll take it. Now, the younger kids, they're going to just get over it.
Yes.
It's definitely age-related.
Thank goodness for that.
And
so
I think,
go ahead.
I think that's a great example of one of the ways that we can handle our stress level. We have to recognize what kind of a thinker we are, and parents have to recognize what kind of a thinker their child is. And for someone who thrives, like Temple does, and I do too, on having information, this is a good time to search the internet.
But
it's
on the
even
other
an
hand,
opportunity for parents to help their children learn some of those internet search skills. And
we've got to separate the junk out from the good stuff, because there is a bunch of junk, all kinds of herbal stuff that doesn't work, and real crazy stuff.
That's
this
a good
is the stuff that
that's a good point. And so I'm actually going to I'm going to put a link to the article that you mentioned here in the video cast, so folks can get to that. And Debra, thank you for jumping in. I wanted to introduce you to our guests too. Dr. Debra Moore, I think you're retired now, enjoying retirement. Debra has been working in the field of autism for years and has published regularly, several publications, and has written for Autism Parenting Magazine. And actually the first time I met both of you was several years ago when you published the book, The Loving Push, when I did an interview with you then, which is a fantastic book, by the way, that I've sent to so many people. So Debra, thanks for joining us today as well.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So Dr. Grandin, you're saying that it is important that we guide and give direction to our children about how to find reputable sources. But what advice do you have for adults?
This is the problem, because I've been talking to a lot of people. I just talked to somebody today who thinks the COVID thing is a conspiracy. That's absolute garbage.
Right.
And one thing I've gotten really good at is how do you separate out some rubbish stuff from real stuff. Well,
So how do you do
Well,
that?
one of the things being a scientist, I look at sources. And
Mm-hmm.
something that is a journal article, and this is in the Drug Discovery and Therapeutics, or there's another article in the International Journal of Antimicrobiology Agents. These are things that they're journal articles.
Right.
And,
so you have to look at the source.
the other thing that I did is you look up on stuff about the action of the drug, and then you find out when you look at other stuff that that the malaria drug does have antiviral properties. So you're not just barking up some stupid tree. Another treatment that's been on some of the TV channels is using a serum from a person who's recovered from COVID. You go to the blood bank, they take your blood, put the blood cells back in, take your plasma. And if that's a plasma from a person who's recovered from COVID, it can really be helpful. In fact, that method was used on my brother years ago when he was 3 years old. He had shingles of the eye, and he was going to go blind from it. And our doctor, and people looked at him like he was crazy, used the serum from a person who had recovered from chickenpox, and it saved my brother's eye. This is actually a very old, type of treatment.
Right.
So that's another
so has this been a way, this research that you're doing, this pandemic is unnerving for so many of us. We've got this virus that nobody's ever been exposed to. Has this been something that you've done? You mentioned you have health issues. You're in that older
I am more
population.
I'm more concerned about people doing stupid things. I'm extremely logical.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all these drugs are off-label. They've not been approved. All I can say is that other countries are using them right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, they're saying they're having some positive results. They're trying to very quickly do clinical trials. But let's say I come down with COVID. I myself would try the malaria drug, and it is on the pharmacy shelf. It is approved for treating malaria. So it'd be an off-label use for another use, which is legal. Your doctor can prescribe anything he wants off-label. In fact, a lot of cancer chemotherapies are actually off-label that are being used right now.
Right.
And you can do that as long as you have a doctor-patient relationship. So
you said your concern is about people doing stupid things. What do you mean?
Well, really, really stupid things. They took cattle vaccine and tried to use it. All right, that's an example of something really stupid.
Okay.
There's herbal stuff. That's complete rubbish. Okay.
So you're telling folks, do your homework, do your research, find out what's safe, find out what's legitimate.
Well, the problem is that we need to be, I've been in industry for a long time. I've worked with every single major meat company. And one of the things I learned in working with in industry is a lot of companies have the not invented here syndrome. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. Well, the thing I learned when I did my very first project, when I built that dip that was in the movie, I went out and I got information from everybody and I asked for help. Get information. And when the Fukushima nuclear power plant burned up, well, I made a design mistake on not having waterproof doors. But the second mistake is they never asked for help. They never asked for help. It could have been stopped.
Right. So
this is where people have emotions that block logic. The logical thing to do right now is to get these drugs and start carefully testing them here, especially the malaria drug and the HIV drug, which are pills. They're not IVs or something else complicated. I would do. If I was put in charges, I'd call up the doctors in these other countries and I would just talk to them.
So the doctors and physicians are the ones that are going to be testing these drugs. Let's turn.
No, they need to test them.
Right.
They need to test these drugs. And they just talked on the radio today about getting a zillion respirators. Maybe if they worked with some of these drugs, you wouldn't need all those respirators.
So in the meantime, what guidance do you have for the folks, for those of us who still don't have access, while we're waiting on this? What
I would do is make sure if you're in the age, I have to be extremely careful not to get it. It seems to kill older people, and younger people, it doesn't seem to do much to most younger people.
What are you doing to make sure that you don't get it?
Well, I am staying in my house, and I'm going over to my assistant's house where we just, it's almost like we have a we just only never get out of the car on the way there. We got a young person buying our groceries.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
what we're doing right now.
has this disrupted in what way has this disrupted your life and your routine?
Well,
and what has that been like for you?
Well, disrupted. And it's canceled speaking engagements for the next month. Right now, next 5 weeks is canceled speaking engagements. Everything's been canceled for the next 3 weeks.
And what's that been like
totally
for you to
disrupted
have
my
all
life.
this?
Well, what am I going to do? Probably work on. Well, I had plenty of time to surf the internet. It's one of the things I did. and I solved other health problems I had before, and I managed. I had nonstop urinary tract infections. The doctor didn't know how to stop them. That I did use a probiotic that they could buy at Whole Foods, and it worked. And 15 years ago, our chicken industry would have stuck their nose up at probiotics. They're using them now. Something they stuck their nose up at 15 years ago.
Temple, if I could say, one of the things that has always impressed me about you, in addition to how logical you are, is that you're very proactive and you take initiative. And I think that's something that sometimes parents are a little nervous about doing. And I've always told parents, go ahead. No one's going to care as much about your family and your child as you do. Do your research.
Well, the other
Tell
thing
the
I'm seeing
doctors
a lot of
what your
families,
opinion is.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This is where I have a problem with my working memory. It's very difficult for me to time my conversation. But I see too many families overprotect their kid, and they're not learning shopping. They're not getting out and doing things. And then I talk to the family where they got the kid out doing things, and they'll say, oh, he just flourished when he got that job. I just talked to a kid that was addicted to video games, and they got him out fixing cars. And you know what? He thinks cars are a lot more interesting than video games. And I'm going, good. But yeah, and a visual thinker can see the future. I call it my computer guy. He's here right now. And we just bought the last microphone and camera set for really good video conferencing. I was just proactive enough on that.
So you mentioned, getting your kids out. I wanted to mention to you, in the Loving Push, you talk about how important it is to get our kids out. And I wanted to give you an update that my daughter, Abby, who was, I think, 14 when you first talked with her, she's 17 years old now, and I have lovingly pushed her, and she is driving, and she has a job at Chick-fil-A. But this has been very disruptive for her because she's lost all of her shifts at Chick-fil-A. She's stuck at home now, and she's really struggling with the lack of routine. So what advice would you have for me as a parent now to help her with this situation?
Well, first of all, it's not going to last forever.
Right.
Okay, the worst possible scenario would be a total mess until we get a vaccine. And that's going to take a while. Yeah, vaccine, that takes a while to make a vaccine. And it's something that we need to be working on, like the old Manhattan Project. Okay, making an atom bomb was not a very nice thing, but they got it done in a very short period of time. There's no way that you could make a vaccine like in 2 weeks. That's impossible. But maybe you could do it quicker than a year and a half. And then I looked at what are things, there's been a lot of interest in science about repurposing old drugs. And they're finding out that a lot of old drugs can be repurposed for all kinds of uses. And so I got thinking, what's on the shelf? I found out that there was a probiotic on the shelf that solved my problem with urinary tract infections. And it worked. The doctor was going to put me on prophylactic Cipro antibiotics. That's crazy. You can't be taking Cipro all the time. And I just go, think simple. Think simple. What's the simple thing? Is it some simple drug that's sitting right there in the pharmacy that might work?
Right. So, okay.
So I just started.
So that's a focus on our health. But for somebody like Abby, do you have any advice for her, or for me as a parent, or Debra, do you have any advice?
Well, maybe one of the things she could do is, email and talk to some of her other Facebook, not the Facebook, get them on Facebook and do, they're the Chick-fil-A employees. They're in the same boat. And if she could email or phone or whatever with some of her other employees, they're upset too about having their shifts canceled. It isn't just her.
That's true.
So maybe if she talked to, let's say she made some friends at Chick-fil-A, maybe she can figure out some other things they can do online or something with them.
Right, to connect. And so I think you bring up a good point. It's important that we don't lose touch with each other, and that at least we do live in the day and age where we can connect to each other socially. And Debra, I think you mentioned to me when we were chatting about doing this video cast that you knew of some resources too for teenagers and children who are stuck at home. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I found one that I thought was really good, and it is docs.google.com. And when you go into that, you click on isolation resources.
Oh,
and they have
advice
for parents. They have activities for children. They have a list of all the museums that you can visit online. They have a whole section about learning something new, how to keep busy at home. They have phone numbers. And there's a lot of resources out there that usually cost money. And right now, they're available for free because of the virus.
All right, that's wonderful.
They have worksheets for children. They have how to build things. They have how to make recipes with food when we're in a situation where we may have to stretch our food supplies. So it's docs.google.com, and you click on isolation resources.
Okay, another thing is my book, Calling All Minds. People might find that fun. I can give you a really good website for fun mathematical things for the kids that are mathematically inclined. It's called Wolfram Mathematica. Wolf like the wolf, ram like a sheep. Wolfram Mathematica. That's a marvelous website if you're mathematically inclined.
Okay, that sounds great. That
could be a fun thing.
He's the math whiz, and we've got to keep them engaged, and and I think it's important. This virus is not limiting us to indoors. We also need to still get exercise and get out and walk and not breathe in each other's spaces, but to at least still breathe the fresh air. Of course, here in Georgia, we're about to be hit with pollen. I guess we are everywhere. But I think that's also important too, to make sure that we stay as healthy as possible and get the exercise that we need.
I would totally agree with that. Be really careful about hand sanitizer. Just remember, when you're in the store, they have it there at the door. Use it as you go out, so that and don't touch the door. Use an automatic door, so that because the doors, if it's not an automatic door, will be covered with the virus.
Right, we're having to all be so much
don't
more
contaminate your car with it.
Right, yeah, we're having to be so much more aware of these basic things that we've just never thought of, really. Well, I know we had said we were going to talk for about 20 minutes, and so as we're wrapping up here, I just wanted to ask if either one of you had any more you wanted to add, anything else you felt like would be pertinent or helpful for our audience, which is mostly...
Well, I also want to add that they've been calling the phone the third hand.
Oh, right.
Your phone is your third hand. So let's say when you go out to go to the grocery store and your phone's vibrating or whatever, don't answer it. In other words, until you've used hand sanitizer. Don't let your phone get contaminated.
That's a good point. I've heard that our phones are filthy, so we need to wipe them down.
But let's say if your phone, you don't touch it with hands that have, touched bad things. So let's say I got to go to the grocery store.
Don't pass it to someone else.
Your phone rings, you don't answer it. And then you use hand sanitizer as you go out, and then you answer it.
Right. That's a very good tip. I hadn't even thought about that. Debra, did you have anything else?
Third hand.
Third hand.
There's three other resources that I remembered.
Okay.
One is called brainpop.com.
Oh, BrainPop, yes.
It's free. And then there's minecraft.com. And it's free now.
There's a lot of kids already addicted to that already. And what one mom did, because her kid was doing Minecraft all the time, is she had them cut up pieces of 2x4 and paint it, and then they had Minecraft blocks to use. So they'd play Minecraft online, but then also just build things with blocks.
With blocks, which is
and I think right now that website has lots of alternate activities as well.
Oh,
the third
okay.
Computer program, or the third website was QNS, QueenNancySam.com. And there are free resources and subscriptions that are now free for all kinds of remote learning, homeschooling help, so that you can keep up some academic activities and keep the mind active.
Okay, there's also Coursera, like a college
yes.
course, and then Coursera, that's got college courses online.
Right, I've heard of that. And folks, I'm going to drop all of these resources in the description here. Yeah, and I think it's wonderful that all of these entities are giving access to these things for free. I was talking to an RN yesterday on a video cast, and there are museums that are giving live tours online, and I think it's great to encourage our autistic kids, even who have special interests, to take advantage of that right now. You know, if they're history or science, you know, go and get online and learn as much as they can in their special interests even.
I'll tell you another way to find interesting math stuff. Use the Google image function to look for mathematical things and just start typing in math terms. It'll take you to great websites with all kinds of geometric patterns and, you know, just really fun stuff for the math kids.
Huh, Google image. I didn't know that.
You use the image function. I'm amazed at what I find. I type geometry, trigonometry, calculus, fractals into Google Images. It just pulls up some fantastic websites.
Google's always surprising me what it has. You just never, you don't even, it's hard, don't even know what they've got out there. Well, again, let's wrap this up. I promised you both 20 minutes, so I'm going to stick to my timeline. Thank you both again so much for joining us. And can you tell us, before we go really quickly, can you tell us a little bit more about that book that you're working on, because I look forward to it.
Sure. It's going to be a book about very basic mindsets that anyone, a parent, an educator, a clinician, a doctor, it's for the professionals as well, has to have, no matter what strategy they're using, no matter what techniques they're using. Basic mindsets like the child is more than a label.
Yeah. That I'm talked about for years is, you know, the visual thinkers, the math thinkers, and the word thinkers. And the skills complement each other. Like these phones we're talking on right now, an artist made the interface. Steve Jobs was an artist, not a programmer. But the programmers and the engineers had to make that phone work. So those different skills can complement each other. And I'm really interested in how visual thinking can help problem solve. Okay, let's thinking about the third hand on the phone. Then I got to thinking, okay, I'm in the grocery store. I want to use hand sanitizer going in there, but where I really want to use the hand sanitizer is just as I'm leaving, so I don't get my car's steering wheel all covered with it. And when I think about this, I'm seeing it.
You're literally seeing that whole narrative play out in your mind. Yes.
I am seeing the store. I'm seeing where the automatic door is and the other door that's not automatic that I'm not going to use. I'm seeing the specific store. I am seeing it. You see, a visual thinker can see solutions to problems. They can also see things that are hazardous. And I think, wait a minute, I don't want to get my car covered with this stuff because it will stay on a plastic surface for 2 or 3 days.
That is really an interesting concept, and that visual timeline is so helpful to know that so many folks on the spectrum do think visually, like you're saying, and I look forward so much to this book being a blueprint. Really, it sounds like for professionals, because professionals need so much training in this still, in understanding how to work with folks on the spectrum. It's so badly needed. I think
part of the problem is a lot of psychology professionals are verbal thinkers. And I think it's hard for some of them to understand what maybe pattern thinking is like and what visual thinking is like. They can't imagine thinking in pictures. I read a paper one time that some philosophers had written, and they had read my book and some other books, and they just couldn't get their head around visual thinking.
I think you're so right about that. I remember reading your book, Thinking in Pictures, years ago, and it was fascinating to me. And those of us in this industry, you know, even I'm a licensed counselor, you know, we do talk therapy. And so it's a totally different way of the brain processing information. So I think this book is going to be great and very, very helpful. So what's the timeline? When can we expect it?
Oh, it's going to
next
take a
year,
while, but we're going to have lots of time on our hands to work on writing a lot of stuff.
You guys
we're going to be working hard the next couple of months.
Well, what's happening right now is we're getting some of our scientific papers out just for our animal science stuff right now.
Okay.
You know, I wanted to say maybe in conclusion that, you know, this crisis, the coronavirus crisis, it illustrates something that Temple has always said, and that is that the world needs different kinds of minds to solve a problem and to really reach potential as a world. And I think we need that right now to tackle this planetary crisis. Let's say you got to crank up the production of the malaria drug. Well, I'm starting to visualize the supply chain. My approach, I'm a bottom-up thinker. I don't think top-down. Okay, I've got to call up the experts. Okay, what do you make this stuff out of? Because you have to source it and get it to a factory. Mm-hmm. How is it sourced? Does it come in a tanker truck? Does it come in is it a bulk? You know, it's all these different kinds of bulk carriers. You've got big plastic boxes that fit on a forklift pallet. You've got different things that raw ingredients are shipped in. Well, I've got to find out what those are. You see, I know that stuff, and because you've got to like supply a factory to make this stuff. Where is the factory? How are you going to do it? You see, that's something that I've talked to experts, and they tell me, okay, what are the ingredients I have to buy to make this drug? How do you do it? What equipment would I have to have? Okay, experts. I mean, I'll ask for help. When I designed my dipping vat project, I called up everybody I could. I called up the USDA veterinarians. I called up Texas A&M University. I said, help. You got to help me design this. And a lot of people, it's sort of like the guys don't want to ask for directions. No, I was never bashful about asking for help because I want a project that's going to work. And I call that project loyalty. You know, and emotions have nothing to do with this. This is pure logic.
Right. And so
how do you actually get something done?
Right. And so you're saying, Deborah, we need all these different thinkers of the world to solve this problem. And Deborah, and Temple, and you know, hopefully if you're able to visualize this and help consult on this, we need people like you to consult on this because you have to figure out how to do stuff. Okay. Like those people on the cruise ship, I didn't tell you why they got sick, and it turned out I was right. I said those inner cabins are a shared ventilation system. Right. They didn't get enough air changes. I thought of that. The first thing I heard about a cruise ship was people getting sick. And probably those inner cabins, they don't get enough air changes, and they're breathing each other's air. And I just read an article today that I was right about that. Right. Right. And so hopefully there are enough people that are trying to find a cure for this, trying to figure out how to deal with our supply chain issues. Hopefully there are enough people working together and using those different types of. Well, this is what we got to do is first of all, you know, there's several drug choices, and you need to figure out which one. You don't want to ramp up the wrong drug. That would be a gigantic mistake. Now, on the have time to do the full bureaucratic way of, you know, doing it. First thing I would do if someone put me in charge is I'm going to call up the doctors in all these different countries and just say, help, tell me. Just like I did with my DipVat project, my very first big project. That's what I did. I called up the USDA, I called up Texas A&M University, and I said, help. I need the drawings for the concrete reinforcement. I don't know how to do it, but I asked for help on my very first big important project that I did years and years ago. Right. So asking for help. And I do hope that that's what they're doing. I hope that that's what's happening. Hope so. Because it's necessary. We've got to put minds together to do it. So, well thank you. Japan did not ask for help on Fukushima. Right. Yeah. Well, thank you both so much. Again, I appreciate you being here. And, you know, anytime you want to chat. I'm always up for a conversation with both of you.
Okay.
So both of you,
All right.
Thank you. Okay.
stay home, stay healthy. I hope that both of you can get through this healthy, and your families that stay healthy as well. So anyway, thanks again for being here. I appreciate it. Hey folks, if you're still watching, I just wanted to let you know that if you need some support, that I've opened up my calendar for you guys. Normally I have a 4 or 8 week type coaching program for adults and couples in autism spectrum relationships, but I've suspended all those programs right now, opened up my calendar for single coaching calls for those of you who just need to reach out and have someone to talk to. I get it. I get where you are. So I've got some 30-minute and 1-hour coaching calls available to you. I'm going to drop the link here in this video so that you can schedule an appointment with me. I'm set up to talk to you on the phone or on video nationwide here in the U.S. So if you need some help, if you need some support, just reach out and we'll chat soon. Hope you guys are all staying well.